I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what a libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do, or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarians are all about. Welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. Yes, it is 3 p.m. on the East Coast, which means we're drinking coffee. Yes, we are. We're here today drinking coffee, trying to stay awake to keep getting stuff done. I say this because we have to understand there are literally hundreds of libertarians across this nation running locally at their state level, at their county level, the district level, city level, whatever, trying to make things happen, to make impact locally. And if that matters to you, and I hope it does, that's why you're watching, then do me a favor, like, comment, share. We have to like and comment and share so those cool algorithms kick in, and so that Facebook and YouTube and Twitter give us a bazillion, that's a number I made up, a bazillion people watching, and we can get past the media blackout, the media blockade, by having our own media. So help me out, like, comment, and share all three of those things whenever you possibly can. I am very lucky today. Today I have with me a man from the great state of Georgia, who's currently moving, I hope staying in Georgia, but currently moving, running for Congress, the man himself, Chase Oliver. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing today, Larry?
I'm doing great. I'm very happy you're here. For more information on Mr. Oliver, head over to chase4house.com. You can see what he's doing and see how you can support him. So, Chase, you're running for Congress.
Yes.
Why are you running for Congress, and why now?
Well, why now is because this is actually a special election that takes place on September the 29th.
Oh, good to know. September 29th, guys. Okay.
That's the day you want to get out and vote for me. And it is to replace and to finish the term of the late John Lewis, who passed away in July. And the reason why I'm running is, well, this is a special election, so there's not a cumbersome ballot signature requirements like there are for most races in Georgia. In fact, I'm only the second libertarian who's ever run for Congress in Georgia because of these special election rules. And so we needed someone to run. I love this city. I'm the chairman of the Libertarian Party of Atlanta, and that is a large part of this district. And so I thought I want to step up and I want to represent my city and I want to represent my party and be a name on the ballot to provide that choice for people.
I love that. Oh, my God. It's a great reason to run. That's amazing. So good. So let me ask you, there's probably, I don't know, a million different issues you care about. Can you give me like your top 1, 2, or 3?
Well, I would say the top issue that I speak about the most is criminal justice reform.
Criminal justice.
And that is because, as you know, there's been a large movement that's been going on, certainly more visually since the murder of George Floyd, but there's been a long movement for criminal justice reform. And there's just been a logjam when it comes to Congress in terms of passing legislation that can really make a change. And so my top platform is ending qualified immunity and ending cash bail and ending no-knock raids. If I were to say my top 3 individual issues, but overall criminal justice reform and ending the wars at home and abroad would be the most important issues to me.
So let me be clear on that one. Criminal justice reform, and then ending the wars at home and abroad. So when you say the wars at home, do you mean the war on drugs, war on poverty? What wars do you mean?
So specifically the war on drugs.
War on drugs.
A lot of crime. A lot of the reasons why we have such harsh policing is due to the drug war and all the funding we get federally, but also the war on immigration, the war on people moving freely around in this world, and the fact that there are people who are caged at the border. I think there are voices that need to be heard. We have a large immigrant population in Atlanta, and that's another war that I think needs to be having a voice in opposition to it.
So that's a lot. War on you said war on drugs, warn immigration.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I like that. Warn immigration. I love that. All right. That I haven't heard that one in a while. Right. I've heard people about immigration reform, but you actually warn immigration. All right. I'll buy it. So go ahead.
Well, let me just say, the immigration is near and dear to my heart. And considering I'm seeking to finish out the term of the late John Lewis, the last time I saw him speak actually was at an immigration rally where we were protesting ICE using the Atlanta City Jail to house their detainees. And John Lewis spoke there. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get more involved in the issue of immigration. I was already for, immigration reform, but the immediate human rights concern is now something that is very paramount that we've seen since 2016.
We have a question. Someone says, what is qualified immunity?
Oh, I love that question. So qualified immunity, it's a doctrine that was created by the Supreme Court, kind of whole cloth. And what it does is it allows government officials, and in this case specifically police, to avoid civil trials, criminal, civil justice, because if they have not violated the Constitution in a way they specifically know, it basically creates a whole nother tier for people to have to get over to get justice. For instance, Jacob Blake, who was shot in Kenosha, Wisconsin, just this week. If he survives, he'll probably want to sue in civil court to get the medical expenses and other things that he's going to need for the rest of his life and that restitution. And qualified immunity is just one more step and one more hurdle that's going to make it nearly impossible for him to get that justice. So that's why we need to end qualified immunity.
Excellent. Great. I love that. Someone else just said this is actually end the wars on people. I like that concept, right? That's the war on immigration that you're talking about. I love that. Tell me about the war on immigration.
Well, the war on immigration, to me, it is, you see yet again, just as with the war on drugs, you see massive amounts of federal dollars being put into groups like ICE and Homeland Security and all these programs. And essentially what they do is they harm the free movement of people. We as libertarians believe that you should be able to move freely and work freely wherever you want. That does not mean instant citizenship, but there should be some sort of process for that as well. But what we really need to stop doing is detaining people who are escaping the war zones that we've created with the war on drugs as refugees, essentially, and stopping them at the border, detaining them, removing parents from their children. It's really a human rights violation that we really need to speak about more often. And I think with the current pandemic crisis that we have, the protests that we have in the streets, the election of 2020 going on, it's something that's kind of oft getting forgotten. We kind of forget there are still children in cages. That's not just a news story from a year and a half ago that went away. It's still going on, and we need to still be talking about it.
We're definitely yelling and screaming at the top level R&D and not worrying about what's happening with the wars on people. I like that. I'm gonna take that war on people and war on immigration, and I might give you credit, but probably not. Just saying. But so I like where you're going with that. So now that's the wars at home, the war on immigration, war on drugs. Am I assuming that means you want to legalize cannabis? Is that an assumption, or am I wrong there?
Oh, absolutely. 600,000 people get arrested in this country, even though we have legalized cannabis in, I believe, over 30 states now. There's still over 500,000, over 600,000 people who get arrested for basic drug possession of cannabis. And that's a lot of people who don't need to be in jail due to a crime that really isn't a crime at all. There's no victim. If you want to consume cannabis, I know many women who have a glass of red wine at the end of the day. The kids go to bed, they want to have a glass of red wine and unwind with a little Netflix. You should be able to do the same thing with a little bit of cannabis. There's no more discernible harm. In fact, there's far less harm that comes from cannabis than alcohol, tobacco, even things like caffeine, essentially are about the same danger level as cannabis. So I really don't see why it's outlawed, other than to create more people to be fed into the racist prison industrial complex to basically just continue to basically controlling people. That's what it's all about at the end of the day with government, is controlling people. And they love to do that with criminal justice and the prisons.
So maybe it shouldn't be libertarians drinking coffee live. It should be libertarians doing weed live.
Hey, whatever you want, man. Whatever.
Maybe it should be that instead. Okay. No, I like where you're going with this. I'm getting that. So do you see a difference, or do you care either way, between legalization and decriminalization?
Well, we have decriminalization of cannabis here in Atlanta. And, while that's a great step in the right direction, full legalization is really where we should be at.
Okay.
You shouldn't be getting a parking ticket if you are, consuming cannabis on your home and a cop happens to walk by. You shouldn't be getting ticketed for that. You should not be getting ticketed for having a small amount of cannabis in your car at all. And really, to me, it's like, what's the difference between having a couple of cases of beer that you're taking to the NASCAR race and having a dime bag of weed that you're going to roll a couple joints with and enjoy with your friends later on in the day? It just doesn't make sense to me. And in regards to drugs overall, we really should be looking to places like Portugal, which cut their IV drug use in half by treating addiction as a health crisis as opposed to a criminal justice issue. You stop throwing people in jail and you start providing them with better avenues to seek help for themselves, and they will help themselves. And that's how you curb addiction. You lower the crime rate, but you also provide a better standard of living for really everyone in the community, and create safer communities when you legalize drugs and you treat it more addiction as a health issue, which is what it really is.
Okay. Shelly asked a question. She says, I thought children were only separated if no familiar ties were there, and it's to prevent trafficking. Do you know if that's accurate? I hadn't heard this. This is what Shelly says. Do you know if that's true?
I would love to see more research into that, but I've read stories about aunts who have been separated from their nephews and nieces, or there are children who are currently sitting in detention right now who have family members in the United States who are already immigrated here, and they could be in the care of those people, but instead they're in cages. So regardless of if they're being separated, I have heard stories of families being separated. But regardless, there are children right now who are in cages who could otherwise be at family homes in Texas, Arizona, along the border, or really anywhere where there's a family member who could be caring for them as opposed to the state. And we've seen horrible stories of sexual abuse and physical abuse at these facilities. And so, really at the end of the day, it's all about getting these kids to a place that's safer than a government-run facility out of Walmart,
Makes sense. I love it. By the way, James loves your flag.
I love my flag too. And you know what? Let me just say real quick, I'm the fundraising director for Outright Libertarians. If you become a sustaining member of that organization, it's a charity organization that's devoted to helping gender and sexual minorities and the Libertarian Party. If you go to there and you join them for $30 a year or more, you get one of these flags. So
I know I did it, and then I auctioned that flag off, and someone bought it, and I had to sign vulgarity on it. And I said, I'll sign any vulgarity you want, and he bought it for like $200, whatever it was. It was for charity. And he made me write on it, I love taxes, Larry Sharpe. That was his vulgarity. That's what he made me write. So yes, an interesting story for that flag. I just thought it was good. So that's the wars here, right? Give me the wars abroad. Are you saying just stop the shooting? Are you saying shut the bases down? Are you saying only use drones and bomb, but no feet, no boots on the ground? What does end the wars mean?
So end the wars to me. So first, it harkens back to, I was in high school when 9/11 happened. I was a 17-year-old. And I often tell people when I talk about war, I babysat a little girl when I was in high school with my best friend. Her name was Madison. She was born on the 12th of September, 2001, the day after 9/11. She was literally one of the first people born in this new world after 9/11. And she is now old enough to have been serving in that war for almost a year now. And that is ridiculous. We should not be having generational wars. So with regards to Afghanistan, Iraq, we really need to be pulling out of there immediately.
Okay.
In regards to drone warfare, I think it is something that often gets forgot. But during the Obama administration, most of the people who were killed by drones were innocent bystanders and civilians, collateral damage. Yep. I cannot stand by that. I cannot support any kind of military action that's going to kill more innocent people than the enemy. That makes no sense to me. And with regards to bases and overall, we really do need to be reducing our footprint in the world. We do not need to be having tens of thousands of troops in countries all over the world. It is to me something that provokes a response from the rest of the world. Having us basically declaring ourselves an empire and being all over the world, well, that makes us a target for people who say, well, look at these imperialists controlling us. What we need to be doing is we need to be trading markets, not bombs with each other. That's the way you have real international impact with each other. We don't have to have military in Europe. We trade with Europe. They're our friends. We don't have to have a military threatening China all the time as long as we're buying their products and they're buying our products. Trade is what's going to create a more peaceful world. Now, we should still have a military that's going to protect us from any kind of attack. And we already spend more than the next 7 countries combined. So I think we can do that while also massively reducing our footprint around the world and ending the wars overseas and really ending the drone programs, which have killed so many innocent people.
So does that mean that, I know you're going to hear this, but the terrorists, Chase, right? If we don't fight them there, then they're going to come fight us over here. Isn't that the argument that we get constantly? Isn't that the rationale for the fighting the wars, right? If we don't fight them over there, then we're going to have to fight them here, right?
Well, honestly, what I would say to that is again, when we grow our peaceful world with more marketplace trade and more interaction with these other countries, there will be an incentive on the part of the governments and the people of these countries to actually quell terrorism in their own country, because they're going to want to trade with us. They're going to want to have that marketplace success with us. And there's going to be partners in the region who will be able to help combat terrorism themselves. If we just take the initiative to say, you know what, we're not going to impose our will upon you, but we're going to ask that you help create a more peaceful world. And at the same time, again, we can have a national security and a military apparatus that protects ourselves here in the homeland very effectively. And again, that doesn't require the Department of Homeland Security, a department which shouldn't have even been created in the first place. And it doesn't really require the TSA, which has been a massive failure. If you look at every test the TSA has done, they have failed massively when it comes to finding the fake bomb or finding the fake terrorist on those drills. They lose every time. So there are ways that we can be better protecting the people here at home than this massive national security apparatus that we currently have that seeks to really abuse a lot of the constitutional protections that we have here at home, things like the Patriot Act. We don't need all this stuff. Absolutely. There are better ways to keep ourselves safe than this giant intrusion of privacy upon every American. So while I support taking care and taking care of the people here at home, there's better ways to do that as well.
Ryan seems to visualize when our troops come home, instant border safety. I guess he wants to put them on the troops. There we go. So you mentioned, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said it's a lot easier to protect ourselves when we actually have the military here at home. You know, the National Guard should be guarding our nation, not guarding the nation of Iraq or Afghanistan.
It's true. Philip asks, what is your plan for the U.S. being prepared for an attack? Do you have a vision for that, or do you just bring the troops home, or what do you think is your vision, if you have one, for what does a defense look like so that we are prepared in case we are attacked?
Okay, so if we are attacked, again, I imagine that if we do remove all of the war spending that we're tens and tens of billions of dollars a month that we're sending all over the world, if we focus that on a military at home, we can not only reduce the Pentagon's budget, but also create a more ready military for if such an attack were to occur. But at the same time, I believe in a quick response. I do believe that there is the situation where if we are attacked, that is where the executive branch kind of, as a congressperson, in the immediacy of an attack, you have to kind of defer to the executive in that case. But when it comes to war, when it comes to actually voting for war, that is where Congress needs to have its say. And Congress is the people who should be declaring war. And right now, we have just been allowing this authorized use of military force since 2001 to just keep going and going and going. And really, we need to have a Congress who's going to stand up and say, what are our priorities? What is keeping us safe? And where should our troops be?
So you make a distinction between an executive responding to an attack or defending from immediate attack and, say, invading a country, declaring war. You make a distinction on those two.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
There's definitely a distinction there.
Okay. I have to ask a tough question. I'm giving this to you because the people are asking. So you're getting a lot of tough questions here. What about China, right? And the issue we were trying, as you mentioned, you want them to be trading. And I get it. Makes total sense. I love the fact that we're trading. I think it's awesome. But Howard's talking about their Belt and Road Initiative. And for those who don't know what that is, what China is doing is they are basically investing in poor or more underdeveloped countries throughout the world in an attempt to make either some form of long rail line or road line or sea lanes. Everything goes to China, and they can get in and get out whatever they want. That is their goal, is to, I don't know if I would agree with what Howard's saying, dominate the world. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but for sure have massive influence and get what they want. Is this something you thought of, Chase? Or it's okay. He threw this out there. I just want to put it out there in case you had an answer for it.
Well, here's what I would say. China, like any other nation, like our own nation, is going to be a competitor in the world marketplace. If we really believe in free markets, we have to believe in competition. And China is going to be one of our competitors. They're a fast-growing economy. They have tons of innovation. And it's something that we do have to think about. But what we can do for our world partners is say, do you want to have a partner who wants to expand your marketplace reach, help you grow your economy, and also not control your lives in the way that China would like to do that. And if we provide the freedom option, that I believe is the best option in the world marketplace. I believe we can compete with China on that. I work in the trade industry. I work in shipping, and I see every day trade with China happens all the time. But the truth is that if we really believe in free markets, we're going to have to believe in free competition. And we're going to have to provide a better service. We're going to have to provide a better trading partner for China, or than China, rather. One thing that I can say that we can do as individual citizens, and one thing I advocate as a libertarian, is microloans. Micro lending is a great way to actually have that direct investment. Skip the government line, skip the US government, and skip the Chinese government. Just invest directly into the third world with small loans that get repaid back. And you're helping to grow a middle class that will become our trading partners in the future. So that is one of the things I advocate as an individual, certainly, is things like microloans and micro lending, which is a great way to just, again, skip the government line and just go directly into market investment. Okay,
I got it. So let me ask you, do you have a cool slogan, like a build that wall or a Medicaid for all, or one of those cool slogans that people can chant and yell at you when you go out to places?
Oh, well, I do have a slogan, and it is more choices and more voices. And the reason why that is my slogan is because in addition to just campaigning for Congress, I'm also campaigning to let folks know about the ballot access and gerrymandering issues in Georgia.
Okay.
We talk a lot about voter suppression in the state, and rightfully so, when we have a Republican governor who's done a lot to kind of suppress the people's ability to vote in the state. But another form of voter suppression that gets talked about far less is gerrymandering and ballot access. When you gerrymander districts to become only safe red or only safe blue districts, and then you create ballot access hurdles that make it so hard for independent or third parties to compete with you on the November ballot, what you're essentially doing is creating one choice democracy, which is no democracy at all. So many times on the ballot, if you look at our state Senate and state assembly ballots, over half the time, and representing far over half the population, you have people running unopposed on the November ballot. And that is a shame. And I want to bring issue to that. We need more choices and more voices in our political discourse. More choices on the ballot, more voices in the debate is like a blade to a wet stone. It sharpens the arguments. It makes all
blade to a wet stone. Okay, I gotcha.
It sharpens the arguments of everyone. It makes us better. It makes our politics more accountable. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, you should be wanting more than one choice in your ballot, because you should want to be able to have an answer to somebody who's not doing right by you and your community. And we don't see that enough in this state. So that's one of the things I want to talk about, is ending voter suppression, because when you don't have a choice, you don't go out and vote. And that keeps people from going to the polls. And we need everyone to go to the polls and vote. Everyone should have a choice.
So let's walk down that road. What's your race look like? You have 2-person race, 3-person race, 4-person race. It's a special election, you said, right?
It is a 7-person race. There are 5 Democrats.
7-person race.
Yes, there are 5 Democrats, an independent, and myself as the libertarian choice on the ballot. So there are 7 choices.
Hold on. No Republican?
There are no Republicans. I believe I'm probably the most Second Amendment candidate on the ballot. You know, we all talked about the Second Amendment of a recent forum, and other people said that, well, I'm pro Second Amendment, but we should all, someone said I'm pro Second Amendment because we need to combat tyrannical government, but I also believe we should have a national firearms registry. And I kind of was like,
I'm pro Second Amendment. I just want to seize all the guns. But I'm totally pro Second Amendment. I just want to seize all the guns.
And my answer to that was, the Constitution says shall not be infringed. It does not say national registry there. And in fact, if you really want to combat it, and in my head, I'm thinking, if you want to combat a tyrannical government, letting them know who the people are who have the guns is probably not the strategic way to do that.
I like that. Wow. Okay. So is this a jungle primary where the top 2 win? Is it that kind of thing?
Well, what it is, in Georgia, we have a runoff system, which is something that I also want to talk about in Georgia. You never have to fear about spoiling an election. In Georgia, you don't have to say, well, if I vote for the Libertarian, the Democrat or the Republican's going to win. If you don't get over 50% in Georgia, it goes to a runoff. So if it ends up that no one gets over 50%, the top 2 candidates in this race will seek a runoff a few weeks later, and actually reduce the term of this down from a few months to about a month. So I'm hoping to win outright so that I can serve the full 4 months and be very loud in the halls of Congress for 4 whole months about ending qualified immunity and these ending the wars at home and abroad.
Wow. Okay, so with that in mind, let me ask you, you only have about a month or so left in your race?
Yep.
How do you make impact, right? How do you get people to hear what you have to say and then become engaged enough to do the Googling that's required, right? To kind of figure out, oh, this guy is for me. This is the guy I want to replace. I mean, to be fair with you, you look like almost the opposite of Mr. Lewis.
This is true. This is true. I am. There's
so people are going to be looking and being like, wait a minute, this is the guy replacing Lewis. What? That's going to happen.
So there is certainly one of these things is not like the other.
Yes.
Going on. But when it comes to reaching the voters, first and foremost, I'm trying to be out amongst the voters as much as possible. I'm doing tabling at parks. I'm trying to speak at whatever events I can, and just speak directly to voters. I try to go out where voters are, which is kind of hard during this pandemic period to socially distance and do retail politics. But I'm doing my best to do that. I just got my yard signs ordered, so we will have yard signs out. So if you're in the 5th district and you need a yard sign, get with me. I will personally deliver it to you.
I like that.
So in addition to being visual in that way with yard signs and literature and tabling, I'm also trying to speak at whatever forum I can. I have now spoken about 4 forums that are mostly Democratic. They're basically run by the Democratic Party, and they've been polite enough to invite me to these forums. And again, this is a great thing that I like to remind people is you don't really get to hear from libertarians very often.
Right.
So I'm very happy that the Democratic Party has invited me to these forums to speak. And I'm hoping that it might even change some of their minds in the future and say, we need to listen to libertarians more often in the future and have them in future debates overall. So I have been honored to go out and speak to the voters in that way. And I've gotten some good traction from it. I've heard many voters say, I wouldn't have considered you earlier, but now that I've heard you speak, you're really someone that I'm looking to vote for. I'm also very active in the LGBT community. You can tell from the flag behind me and my work with outright libertarians. But Midtown Atlanta is a part of the district that is basically it's the LGBT heart of Georgia, where our pride parades are. And it's where I'm trying to get out the vote as much as possible to tell people, we could have our first ever LGBT elected congressperson if we get out and vote September the 29th for Chase Oliver.
Right. Okay. So talking about getting out. Well, the one thing that's been out there for several months since the murder of George Floyd is the protesters. My gut tells me, I'm not 100% on board with what's happening. I don't understand everything, I should say, that's happening. But from my feelings, this is far more now than just George Floyd, right? I mean, the protesting, I think my view, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree, my view is that we set this up with the government response to COVID by locking everybody in our homes. 30 million Americans getting locked into their homes for months on end with nothing to do except Netflix, right? Not liking not even liking our roommates who we used to never see because we were always working. Now we got to see them every day, right? That kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, here comes George Floyd. That was the spark that ignited the tinder that got everything going. And now people are out there. And now we're still not going to work, many of us. So it's much easier to protest when you don't have to be to work at 9 o'clock the next morning, right? So I think we have an environment that encouraged it. So it's George Floyd, obviously that is true. And I think it just kept going. And it's just, as things happen, it just keeps going. I feel like it's almost taken on a life of its own. I'm just curious to your view on this. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I kind of right? Where's your head on this?
Well, I feel like you're definitely on the right path here. There were definitely issues of criminal injustice. We've seen it so much of the last few years. I mean, there are too many names to name. Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Philando Castile, like on and on and on. You could just keep naming names. But George Floyd was a tinder that kind of lit the spark, and I do think a lot of that it's kind of a silver lining actually to COVID. We didn't have professional sports. We only had Tiger King for a month.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
Everybody flew through Netflix really quick. And so they kind of had the ability to kind of focus on what's going on in the real world. They weren't distracted by the bread and circuses of the world so much. People were starting to focus and go, wow, this isn't just isolated incidents. This is happening over and over again. And since then, we've had other things like we've had the Ahmaud Arbery shooting, which wasn't necessarily a police shooting, but what it was a shooting that was completely swept under the rug for months until a leaked video happened, and then the DA was forced to act. And that right there is a shame. So it's not just policing; it's the full criminal justice system, and people are starting to see that the system is more interested in imprisoning people and controlling people than really protecting and serving the communities that they're supposed to be doing. And I do think that the COVID pandemic has had something to do with that. So many of us being home. And I know that I've been far more physically active, like out there and active this year, because I feel the momentum. Like I really do feel that the people are finally getting out there. And as a libertarian, as an affiliate chair, I wanted to make sure that people know that the Libertarian Party is on the side of fighting the authoritarian state, supporting the people's individual rights, and needing to reform the criminal justice system. Because too often we let people write our definition of what we are, and they say, well, we're just libertarian, or we're just Republicans who smoke weed, or we don't care about anybody but ourselves. But the truth is we care about each and every person. And we want each and every person to be able to live free and peaceful in the world. And that's why we are fighting for these reforms. That's why we need to be out in the streets. And that's why we need to be giving the libertarian message. I don't care if Marxists are amongst the crowd that I'm in. In fact, I welcome it, because then it gives me a chance to speak to them and wake them up to libertarianism and wake them up to what real liberty looks like. And we need to be out there, boots on the ground, grassroots. That's where we need to be. That's where the energy is. And that's how we're going to grow the party, grow the movement, and really start winning elections. That's what we need to be doing.
I love that. You just leaned into the Marxists. I love that. Yes, let them be here so we can convert them. I love it. It's great. Glad they're here. Welcome aboard. Let's convert you.
Let me play you this guy Spike Cohen. Let him talk to you for a little bit about what's going on with criminal justice. Let me talk to you a little bit about what's going on with criminal justice. Hear from our candidate and see if that's the difference that you're really looking for, as opposed to the failed policies that you've been voting for the last generation. That's why I go out there. That's why I speak. That's why I try to be as visible as I can when I go to these marches. So
I hope you win, obviously. If you don't win, if you don't get the seat, have you, and some people have, some people haven't, some people it's the seat or nothing, but have you decided that there is some other win that you might say, you know what, I didn't get the seat, but this thing happened, so you know what, I still kind of won. Do you have that?
I have, I'd have two other metrics of success, naturally winning being the first, but the other two that I have, first and foremost, if I can improve the image of libertarianism and what it means to be a libertarian in this district, and show people that, again, we are not the misconception that Republicans and Democrats like to throw out about us, that we are actually caring people. We are parents, and we are regular people who just want everyone to be able to live peaceful and free. That's a great metric of success. And then secondly, if I can encourage whoever does win this race, if I do not, to fight to end qualified immunity during this 4-month term, to be loud and proud for it, and to also say that this is something that we are not going to walk away from, that there's a movement in this city, and we're going to build a coalition with whoever it is that wins to end qualified immunity. If we can get those two things done, those are metrics of success that I think would make, even if I don't win, would make this race completely worth it.
Well, I love that. And for those of you who are in Georgia, particularly Atlanta, but just in Georgia in general, and you want to help out Chase, head on over to chaseforhouse.com. Click that donate button if you've got some cash, you want to help him out. Please do that. Throw some money his way. He's got a month left, and that month left, well, he's got to buy signs. He's got to buy door hangers. He needs Facebook ads. He needs new shoes to put on because he's walking so much and the leather's running off of him, right? So he needs all that stuff. So you got to make sure you're helping him out there. And say you said, Larry, I'd love to, but I don't have the cash. No worries. He needs your time also. If you're in the Atlanta area, show up with him. He's out there shaking hands and stuff. Got the mask on. I saw the picture. But so show up with him. Be next to him. Have a sign over his head while he's walking. Help him hang on door knockers, whatever the case may be. Make some phone calls. If you don't live in the area, he could use some social media warriors, people to like, comment, and share. All those things. Use them all. chaseforhouse.com. Chase, anything you want to bring up before we wrap this up?
I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to come speak to your audience. And I want to say I am so happy that I'm getting to run this race. And I hope this is a movement that gets more candidates in Georgia under the Libertarian banner. If you want to join the Libertarian Party of Georgia, go to lpgeorgia.com. And also like and join the Libertarian Party of Atlanta. We do park cleanups and all kinds of other community service events. If you live in the Atlanta area, come out. You get to hang out with a congressional candidate, but also do lots of good in the community and just have fellowship with other lovers of liberty. So I would encourage you, and even if you're not in Georgia or in Atlanta, join your local party and your state party affiliate. Get involved at the grassroots and really help make a difference. If you like what I've been talking about, go and talk about it with your local party and help make the Libertarian Party the best it can be.
I love that. And don't forget, September 29th is your election, correct?
Yes, it is, sir. Vote September the 29th for Chase Oliver for Congress.
There we go. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I appreciate it, Chase. Thank you so much for all your time. I will see you all very soon.
Peace, love, and liberty.